Okay, it is Tuesday, October the 27th, 2020, and this is Richard Wright, your professor, and I am calling you because today is week number 4. Week number 4. And we are spinning around and going out of the turn. I think I'm going to make a change for next week. I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. But I apologize to each of you for I didn't get a chance to finish your posts and your briefs for week number 2 because and then I'm late today because I've been dealing with a challenge. My wife went to the doctor and the other day and they rushed her by ambulance from the doctor to the hospital. So she had a little mild heart attack. So she's only 56 years old. So it's been really rough on me. She was in the hospital up until today. So I got her back home. It's really, really bad. With this COVID around in the hospital, they didn't even have a room to put her in. So you know how you go to ER first. She was in ER first. And then they turned that into her permanent room, put a regular hospital bed because they didn't have any beds. There were people in the halls. When I went to see her, it was just, I mean, people walking around in hazmats and, oh, it was horrible. So forgive me for that. I'm gonna be working tonight to get that done. So just hang in there with me, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about next week in just a minute. Okay, well, it's good to see oh, wow, you got your name fixed.
I'm taking it from my phone today instead of my
Oh,
computer.
okay. All right.
So
Oh, yeah, I do see that now. Okay. I was going to say, yay.
I'm myself for once. This never happens. It's only because I'm on my phone.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. All right. That's really, really funny. Um, but I said, wait a minute, what's different about this class today? I says, where's that other character? What's the other name that you have on there? That
Oh, it's Peer Mentor
Peer
1.
Mentor One.
Even like my peer mentoring room is Peer Mentor 7. And then I use the Justice Studies room as well. And no matter what, it will not take me off of Peer Mentor 1. That's like my permanent name now.
Well, you're stuck on number 1, so that's okay. That's that's good. That's good. That's too funny. Um, well, and Cynthia, I sent a message to um, Melissa. Says, hey, if I could get you in, then I'll have all of my student peers, tutors in my class. So I haven't heard back from Melissa, but there's a lot of things going on in her state. She lives in Wisconsin, and you know that Wisconsin's got a high rate on the numbers with what's happening with this COVID. So, and they're shutting down our area again, restaurants and everything around here. So, boy. Well, I'm gonna go and share my screen with you guys. Hope everybody is staying well. Probably one good thing about the hospital situation with my wife is that she had to take a COVID test. Everybody had to take a COVID test. I didn't as a patient, but anyway, she tested negative, so that's a good thing. So, all right. So week 4, good old written assignment Gantt versus Arizona. We'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. But here is the rubric for it. You guys already know. You have it as well. And then here is the course project. Um, Current topics. Choose and describe the circumstance surrounding a current topic or event relevant to the Fourth Amendment. Now, remember this. It does not have to be the area that you decide to write in, as you had to do in week 3. Remember, you had related to the chosen area. This week, I just point out to you, it does not have to be the chosen area. So, uh, current event, current case, relevant to the Fourth Amendment. There's always, trust me, always cases or events relevant to the Fourth Amendment. And then include options and a short explanation of how the case fits in to your paper. Include a thesis statement for the project. Now, um, you guys know about the thesis statement. A lot of students don't realize the importance of a thesis statement. It lays out the, um, the issue or topic that you're going to have for the paper. It's kind of like an introductory remark. And so that's going to be something that I'll be grading on. And then, of course, the normal APA stuff. All right. And then you can see here that we have a lecture coming up on next Tuesday. And then we have one the final week, because there's no lecture for week 6. Wait a minute, did I miss that? Yeah, that's right. So the week 6 lecture will be taking place on Thursday of that week. So now I'm going to make one change, and you're going to need to pay attention right now, because I'm getting ready to do it, and I'm going to change it in the system, but I'm going to change it right before your eyes, and you'll see just about now. Let's go look at before we go into the week 4 announcements, let's look at the course calendar. Okay. Course calendar tells you where we are today, your reading assignment, okay, for which I sent you the PowerPoints and additional information to help you out. Your initial posts and reply posts. I do your back to 2 initial posts for this week, the 27th. So your initial post, seizure or not, and punishing police. That's a very interesting one. We'll comment just a little bit about it. And then your reply posts for both of them are due the last day, Halloween 31st, by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, your written assignment, Gantt versus Arizona, will be due the 1st. And cancel. Oops, what did I do? I hit something wrong. Oh, all day. That's what I have. Okay. Fix that up. All day. It's a matter of a minute, but it's there. Okay, so those are due along with your key phrase. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Because I've decided that because we have 2 lectures, and also I'm going to be really, 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 really preoccupied on the 3rd. As you know, that's the election day. Some people, many people have pre-voted. voted before, and like never before. But I'm one of those people who wait till election day, and the polls are right behind where I live, so I'm gonna do that. So what I am going to do is I'm gonna move this lecture to the day before, which is the 2nd. So it's not going to be next Tuesday. It's going to be next Monday. So does that adversely affect either of you? Type in the chat box. Okay, good, good. And so actually it will kind of help students that don't come to the lecture, because you'll have a chance to get it a day earlier than that. So the lecture, so week 5 lecture will be on the 2nd of November, and week number 6 lecture will be on the 5th as previously scheduled. So everybody got that? You got that now? Okay. So what I'm going to do now in real time, this will be something that you've probably never seen, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. I'm going to do this. I'm going to edit that week 4 week 4 announcement. Edit it, and that on Monday. Put that in all caps. Okay, so that when you guys see it next week, it's going to say that the lecture, yeah, it's going to be that day. Excuse me. It should be all set. You won't see it right now, but you're looking at real time stuff. Everybody should see it too. Week 5. Okay, that's because I got to refresh it. Then you'll see it in a minute. As soon as I refresh it, I'll go back. It should be fixed. I'm doing this way because I don't want to forget and confuse anybody. Week 4. So it says now Monday. Okay, so when you see it in the actual module, then did I do that wrong? I did that wrong. I did that wrong. I know you guys were going to tell me. Okay, I changed the wrong week.
My days are a mess. I apologize. Or, well, weeks.
That's okay. Well, I told you I'm kind of in a discombobulated situation with dealing with the situation with Julia. That's my wife's name. So I apologize for that as well. But okay, so week 5 is back to Tuesdays. Week 4 is back to Tuesday. Yep. Okay, now it was week 5 that I meant to edit. Okay, so on, all I want to do is change that one day to okay. All right, so now I've submitted it, and it should be all corrected. Give me while I refresh it. Okay, here we go. You won't see, well, you'll see Tuesday, week 4 is still Tuesday. Yep. And then let's refresh. Let's edit it just to see. We're not going to edit it, but I'll see what it says here. Week, da da da, 3, week 4. Okay, week 5. Should say Monday on here. It is. So now that's all straightened out. Okay, we're good now. All right, so I can exit out of that. Go back to the course home. Okay, so we're all set. So now the places where to schedule for the lectures, except I gotta do one more thing. One more thing. Um, gotta edit this one too. Okay, week 6 lecture. Week let's say okay. 4. Okay. Capitalize this one. Okay. Okay. Now we should all be on page, right? Week 5 lecture will. How about if I spell lecture right? Okay. That's right. LEX, right? Uh, okay, Professor, right. There we go. Wait till you become a teacher one day and then you misspell one word. And then you have a student in class that points that out to you all the whole time. Oh, God. So anyway, I never professed to be perfect. Just Mr. Right. So, okay, so week 5 lecture, Monday, November 2nd, 2020. Okay, so now you guys, thank you for being patient here. So now let's go to the, I want to go back to the course calendar because I always remind people every week. As you can see, that, as I said, I just made the changes. But notice again, this is the final reminder for that week that the course ends on the 10th. On the 10th. So a week from next Tuesday. So basically you have 2 more weeks of class. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Okay. So it doesn't end the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, or 15th, the 10th. And so everybody will always remember that every week Professor Wright mentioned and reminded us that the 10th was. So if a student says they didn't know, that means they didn't listen to the lectures and they didn't pay attention to the calendar. So none of the guys that are on this um, session will do that. I'm positive of that. I could bet some money on it, but I don't bet. So, but maybe I could bet a dinner or something. But okay, all right. So let's look at my week 4 announcement. So week 4, chapters 7, 8, 9 of the textbook along with the PowerPoints have been sent to you guys, and dealing with the topics reasonable suspicion, probable cause, and warrants. And then your discussion assignment, seizure or not, punishing the police. Those 2 discussion posts are due initially tonight. Reply post Saturday night, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. Your written assignment, Gant versus Ohio. And then the next part of your Fourth Amendment current topics, project current topics. By the way, you should be aware that you're going to utilize each of those weeks in your final assignment for your final paper that will be due for week 6. No, that's it. I take that back because that's right, because we made a change. I made a change. So you will not necessarily do that, because actually when we get to module 5, that's it for the course project. So you don't have to worry about week 6 for the course project. Okay. And then of course you know what my motto is, and I encourage you to finish strong, because we're at the end. We're coming out at the end. Any questions thus far? Kind of like basically been correcting things. Any questions, guys? You can type it in the chat. Okay, sounds like a plan. So let's get to the module itself. Let's take a look at the assignments. So, all right. So as I said to you earlier, this is module 4, your Fourth Amendment project, and this area is dealing with current topics. So you're going to find a current case or event that deals with, they switched on me. Your chosen area. Okay, listen to me good and hear me well. That's not what the rubric says. Okay, let's go back and look at the rubric. See, the people who set this course up, I don't think it said that, because I think we just talked about that. Let's go back and look at it. You know what? I think they goofed up on this module, on this rubric they gave me. Hold on. You're right. I think you might be right, but let me look at something, because I was thinking about that out to myself as I was saying it. But anyway, let's go back to, for the moment, looking at week 4's. Choose and describe the circumstance around a current topic or event relevant to the Fourth Amendment. So here's the deal. I'm not going to hold you to. It'd be nice if you get one with yours, a current topic to the area that you did, and quite honestly, most of you chose areas where it's pretty easy to do that. But if I see that you are doing one that's not within that, but if you do a different area, I'm not going to dock points for that. Is that fair enough? Okay, so make every effort though if you can. So anyway, back to, and then, since you brought this to my attention, let's see what it says here. Why there's no rubric for week 6. Let's see. Let me check something. Come on, Professor Wright. Let's look at assignments. Oh yeah, the final project. Oh, okay. Your final project incorporates any feedback. Okay, and that feedback comes from earlier papers. Focus on, okay, okay, okay. So basically, what you're going to do is use the materials that you used before, but include an interview for a law professional. Now, let me explain something to you. See, I knew it was something that we were changing about that. Um, they got to do a complete revision of this course. I got to submit that to them. Because of COVID-19, if you have trouble doing an interview of a law professional, don't worry about that part. I will not deduct points for that because of the fact that actually what you will just need to do is complete the rest of the requirements. But I'm not going to hold that to you. If you do it, great. But because of COVID-19, some people have trouble even doing telephone interviews. That's why we set the alternate assignment up. So that means that when you get to week 6, then and I've got to put the rubric in. I will put that in for that. I'm glad you pointed that out to me because I was thinking about that while I said that the final project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare um, and submit a rubric for week 6, which I think, I don't know what happened, why it's not on here. It should have been on here. And then I will be able to make sure you have that. So the rubric that'll be written will not include an interview for a local law professional. Um, will that help you because of the COVID-19 situation? Will it help you? Yeah, I know that because when this was set up, it was not anticipated. Okay, if you can, fine. As long as I'm not going to hold it to you. And so what I'll do is I'll put it in there as optional. How about that? Okay, Cynthia? That's what I'll do. That it'll be great. Well, okay. So since you're going to be able to do it, then fine. And so I'm going to do the same thing that I did for that. So I got to, excuse me while I make a note to myself. Fix week 6 rubric. Okay. All right. When we get to that week, we'll be talking about that for sure. But thank you for reminding me of that. So now we're going to go back to where we are in week 4. All right. So what you're going to do in this week's assignment for your current topic is so as I said, you could do the current topic can either be with your chosen area, which would be which would fit actually, and it should be pretty easy. It should be very easy, to be honest with you, because there are current cases. All the Fourth Amendment is one of the most used amendments. I think I said this at the beginning. Search and seizure is one of the biggest topics that we have in um, criminal law, and it's one of the areas where we lawyers, when I was a defense attorney, uh, were able to uh, get cases tossed out because of improper warrants or improper searches and things of that nature. So you can do that. So describe the circumstances around the case or event. Include your opinions. as to how it fits into overall thesis of your paper, and include your thesis statement. And then I said the thesis statement should present your main idea in 1 to 2 sentences. If I said thesis sentence earlier, I meant thesis statement. 1 to 2 sentences. It shouldn't be no more than that. That should jump right out at you when I read your paper. Your paper should be proofread, of course, for everything else. Okay, so that's what I want you to do for this week. Any questions about the current topics, Fourth Amendment project for this week? Okay. Fourth Amendment is also kind of involved here, but Gant versus Arizona is a relatively new Supreme Court case dealing with search incident to arrest exception to the warrant. And what search incident to an arrest is mean that to the warrant requirement, which means that you are under arrest, and because of your control over the immediate area other than your person, then the warrant allows the law enforcement team or person to conduct a limited search. And like I said again, read Gant versus Arizona. And the question here is this fact pattern that's found at the bottom. It's a 1 to 2 page. Of course, I don't have to ask you whether it's APA. You already know the answer to that question. And you're going to look at this fact pattern. And you're going to determine if Gigi cruising down Collins Boulevard in Miami, Florida, with her top down, listening to radio, taking in the breeze, just reading a little of it, when all of a sudden the police show up behind her, sirens, headlight, so forth and so on. They pull her over. She parks her car in a legal spot and waits to see what the officer wants. The officer approaches her and asks her for the normal license and registration. Sounds good so far. She asks the officer, why is she being stopped? And the officer tells her she crossed over the center lane twice, which presents a basis for the stop. Remember, the stops always have to be based upon probable cause. And so as a result of the fact that her crossing over the center lane, that's a violation of the law. If you read your driving rules in the road. And so they're stopping her for suspicion that one of the reasons that that might be happening is that a person might be under the influence. So she's then told to get out of the car and perform her field sobriety test. And she does that. And she passed the test. And she then is asked to blow into the breathalyzer. And the reason for that is because there are some people who can be under the influence and can pass field sobriety tests, but then they have the breathalyzer as the technical point. So, and remember that you have implied consent laws in almost every jurisdiction I know of, that when you drive on the road with a license and you implicitly consent to any justified stop and a breathalyzer be taken, otherwise your license are suspended. Generally, that's generally the rule. So she remembers her sister, in the lawyer's words, it says she won't take the test, all right, because she felt like that she passed the field sobriety test. She is told that she will be arrested if she does not take the test. And then, of course, as I said about her license, she still won't give the sample. She's arrested and placed in the police car. Then the officers search her car incident to her arrest. This is the fact pattern. I'm not going to tell you because I already know the answer, but you're going to look at Arizona versus Gant or Gant versus Arizona, and you're going to determine if this is legal based upon that Supreme Court case from 2009. And that's what your paper is going to be all about. Got it? Tell you this, um, good paralegal students. But both of you paralegal students, who was the paralegal student? Ashley, were you a paralegal student? Cynthia, you were not? Oh, you were too? Okay. So good paralegal students understand um, the importance of being able to research and apply this case to it. And I don't know if you studied this particular one, but I can tell you that it's very interesting what happened. So anyway, that's what this paper is all about. As an aside, one of the first things that you ought to do as a student to understand this case after you've read it or gone through it is do what? What would you do? One of the first things to help you to reach that conclusion. Yay! Yay! See, that's what happens. If I was in church, I'd say hallelujah, but I'm in class, but I still said it. But yes, absolutely. Uh, Sometimes students say, "Oh, that's too much work." No, you organize your get an understanding. That's what briefs are all about, you know. So it really is beneficial to helping you. So it's an outline basically, and it helps you to analyze the case. So anyway, so you want to brief your case. Now, I would recommend, you don't have to, as an addendum, put your brief in the paper. I mean, um, it just shows how you arrived at the conclusion based upon your analysis of the case, but then you're also going to include, but that doesn't contribute to your 1 to 2 page paper, but that's an addendum. So I'm not requiring it, but it's a cool thing to see uh, as well. And it shows me also, and it actually helps you because as you guys who are being paralegals understand, is that you're not preparing to learn how to brief cases for school and class. You're learning how to brief cases so that when you get a job, that you will be able to do it. I taught myself how to do it as a law clerk way back before there were paralegals, and so I was writing briefs when I was in before I went to law school. So very very helpful. So in uh, yeah, so somebody just joined in.
That was me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just who is me? Is that Shay?
Latoya.
Oh,
No,
I thought it was
Latoya.
Shay. Oh, okay. That's all right. No problem. I just heard somebody jump in. Boom. I said, where did they come from? So
I
anyway, just
apologize for that.
no, don't apologize. Mute your mic for me, please. That's all. So did you mute it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So anyway, so the point is, uh, briefs are something that you're going to be. It's a tool for as a professional. You can't be a paralegal and not know how to brief cases if you're going to. If you're going to be, at least that is, if you're going to be in the criminal side or in the side where you have to deal with case law. Period. So. Some paralegals are real estate paralegals, and they don't have to deal with that. But in in classes they teach you how to do that. So anyway, any questions about Gantt versus Ohio written assignment? Put in the chat box if there are any. And if there aren't none. Okay. Okay. So now let's talk about the discussion issue of search or seizure, which you're going to use this fact pattern. And then again, it's based upon the Fourth Amendment, of course. As I think I said at the very beginning, almost this course was really designed toward the Fourth Amendment because, as I said, it's one of the most used amendments in criminal law. And so as a result, you're going to see that. So you're going to read this fact pattern, and then you're going to determine with your answers that whether or not, okay, Brielle, kill your video. You already muted your mic. There we go. So that, by the way, am I coming through clear to everybody? Because sometimes I turn off my video if there's a problem. Okay, please let me know, because sometimes I just have to turn mine off. So anyway, you're going to deal with that one topic as a discussion, and then punishing the police. Now, this one is an interesting one because there have been, I had a professor in law school. His name was Fred Enbow, and Professor Enbow actually was the an aside for you guys is that I know a lot about Miranda versus Arizona, the Fifth Amendment interrogation confession case, because in that case, the Supreme Court established the Miranda rights, and they did it in response to the interrogation techniques that were utilized by the police, and said that they thought it was a violation of the constitutional rights of the individuals. Well, my professor, Fred Enbow, we called him Freddie the Cop, who has since passed on, Professor Enbow shared with us an aside that he felt personally maligned because the Supreme Court Miranda versus Arizona decision penalizes the police in terms of questioning individuals, and that was his position. So whenever I get to this, when I always think about that. So if you ever take criminal law, I talk about that in that particular course when we get to the Miranda case. So anyway, so the question is, do you think that the officers who conduct unreasonable, listen to me, not reasonable, but unreasonable search and seizures, or in other words, violate the Fourth Amendment rights of individuals, do you think that they should be criminally prosecuted for the violations of these basic freedoms? Explain your answer. I have variations about my answer to it, and you'll see it in my post when I respond this week as well. But you'll see the point. So, and I can speak from the perspective because I was a defense lawyer who filed these motions, and then I also was a police officer who were held accountable for making sure that I didn't conduct any unreasonable searches and seizures, and if so, then appeals utilizing the Fourth Amendment would protect. In other words, is the Fourth Amendment just one-sided, or is it this issue of unreasonable search and seizures to throw out a case or eliminate evidence, just something that you're shackling the police? So let you chew on that a little bit, and you'll see my answers in the discussion post. And then there's the live classroom lecture. Okay, so those are the assignments. So now let's, for a few minutes, we don't have much time left, but it's okay because I've already started with the topics that I covered. Okay. For those of you who, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Go to lesson content. For those of you who came in late and listened to it, you're going to, I wanted to let you know that next week's lecture will not take place on the 3rd of November, and you'll see it in your course calendar and announcements that it is instead going to be Monday night at the same time. And I'm doing that because I'm going to be very, very busy with election night stuff on the 3rd. But the other thing is that it also gives you better space, because if you know and recall that week 5 lecture will take place that next week. So now it will be Monday the 2nd at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then, of course, Thursday, that will be the final lecture, because the course actually ends on the 10th. So I was just saying that for people who came in late. All right. So anyway, you're going to deal with the Fourth Amendment, as we've been talking about. Warrant requirement exceptions, we're going to talk a little bit about them. The consequences of the Fourth Amendment violations, and so forth. All right. So we're just going to talk about these topics here. In your reading, you discovered the answers to those questions that we set out. So let's look at what is the difference, first of all, between reasonable suspicion and probable cause. First of all, let me say this to you, and it's right here in front of us here. And I'm going to ask you this. Is a Terry stop, when I say Terry stop, does everybody know what I'm talking about when I say a Terry stop? If I say the term Terry stop, does everybody know? Yep. Terry versus Ohio. Yes. Okay. So let me ask this question off the top of my head. You should already know. Which area, reasonable suspicion or probable cause, does the Terry stop fall under? Which one? Yes, reasonable suspicion. Got to say the whole thing. Reasonable suspicion, which is a lower standard than probable cause. So let's talk about that based upon the difference with this chart right here that's given to us. And it talks about it down here. It was right in front of you anyway. Some of you can look at it and see it. But for a stop and frisk, which is basically a brief stop, and because you're not going to be as invasive with the search, it is to pretty much to protect the officer from possible weapons. That's the primary purpose of it. So the point of the matter is that it's the pat down thing, just patting somebody down, not going in their pockets, unless there's a bulky thing like a knife or a gun in that pocket. Then it's different. But as it says, if a reasonable person in the same circumstances could reasonably believe a person has or is about to be engaged in criminal activity, or as somebody said, crime is afoot. And it depends upon the totality of the circumstance. You have to look at the whole thing, and based upon specific facts. And Terry versus Ohio is the landmark case that gives us that. Okay. On the other hand, probable cause. search warrants and most searches should not be conducted except upon establishing probable cause. So I didn't understand that. That's okay, Bixby. You're not in this conversation. Bixby, if any of you have it on your phone, is kind of like Alexa. You know, my phone's sitting over here. So, but anyway, probable cause is needed for a warrant, arrest, or search, except in situations where there are exceptions. Okay, but the main foundation is to protect the privacy of people. That's what the Fourth Amendment is designed to do. And so it's the higher standard. It's like the higher standard between being found guilty by a preponderance of the evidence or by the unanimous, where you have to find an individual is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the higher standard of the two. So probable cause the lower, higher, and reasonable suspicion is the lesser of the two. So if you look at the Fourth Amendment, it says, as it does here, read it. It says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Basically, what they're saying is that the privacy of individuals should not be violated, and no warrants should issue unless probable cause is established. And there are hoops that you have to. I didn't understand that. I'm turning you off. Okay. And so anyway, the whole thing is that in order to get a warrant, you have to establish probable cause with an affidavit of oath describing the place and the persons or things in order to establish a warrant. So you don't have to deal with that reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion takes place right there on the street, or as we say, it's a street application. Probable cause in terms of issuing a warrant. And then once you do have the warrant, then you have limitations that we're not going to go over all the details. You already have one assignment, the Gantt case, to deal with that. Okay, so here are the exceptions, but I'm just going to go over them pretty fast. You don't have to have a warrant or any of those things to conduct a search if somebody consents. Just let me explain. It means that all circumstances have to establish that it's voluntary. So let's say if you have a gun as a police officer on somebody and you ask them consent to search, do you think that would be, and they say yes, do you think that that could possibly hold up in court as them giving consent?
I'm sorry, will you say that again?
Yeah. If you have a gun on somebody, you're a police officer, and you ask them, can they search you or your home? Is that consent?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, the answer is, everybody says it's no. It's not, because consent has to be willfully. It must be voluntary. Do you think the gun might have contributed to the person saying you can search?
Yes.
So therefore, it takes away consent. So that's just a basic example. So yeah. So that's pretty much that one. The search incident to an arrest, which I'm not going to talk about, reason being is because it's Arizona versus Gantt, and you are going to be assigned to deal with that. So I'm skipping completely over that. The plain view. You know what's interesting is that the plain view means what it says. It means if it's in plain view. Okay, so if I come into the house with a warrant or a consent, proper consent, and I come in and I see marijuana all over the table, that's plain view. Okay? It means you don't have to have a warrant to seize that marijuana. So it's evidence all by itself. Now, unless, like I said, it's legal, but you know, it's going to depend on the quantity. But I'm talking about a lot of marijuana. Let's say even cocaine, or either methamphetamine or anything. You're going in for a warrant for something else, but then you find it and it's in plain view. You don't have to ignore it and then go get a warrant, because you know why? Because it'll be gone by the time you come back. So those kind of things. So that's what we call the plain view exception. The automobile exception is really interesting. I was discussing this with a student earlier this week, that a vehicle is, of course, moves if it's working and running, and that evidence can be destroyed. And so you don't need a warrant to search the car where you have probable cause that there is evidence of a crime within the car. The crime may not be what you discover and seize, but they must have committed a crime. All right. Now, driving over the line, as you know, suspicion that you may be drunk, violating, running a stop sign, all of those things give that basis. Okay. It also applies to boats and other motor vehicles. The rule is limited to areas where the contraband can be found. For example, if there is probable cause that a bicycle was stolen and that it's in the trunk of the car that is being searched, the officer can't open up the glove compartment to look for the bicycle, because bicycles can't fit in glove compartments, even the biggest of glove compartments. So if the probable cause is that the bicycle was stolen and you open up the glove compartment and you find some marijuana or even a weapon, and then you try to use that on that person, it's going to say no, 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 no. Now, if on the other hand, you open up the trunk where you find the bicycle, then the bicycle and any other thing in there that's contraband could be used in. Got that? Everybody got that? Okay, I'm going to keep moving, but exigent circumstances. It means what it says. When something is exigent, that means it's emergency. It says where there is a threat of possible harm, destruction, an officer can enter a premise without a warrant in those kind of situations. So a destruction of evidence. I remember, excuse me, we were chasing a guy one time, and he ran into the house, and we went after him in the house, and then he locked himself in the bathroom, and he was flushing the toilet. He wasn't using it. The reason why he was flushing the toilet is because, why do you think he was flushing the toilet? Anybody got an idea? Huh? Yeah, he was trying to get rid of the evidence. It was funny because there was a lot of marijuana, and so we got the door open, and he then had a plunger trying to plunger the toilet because as he was flushing,
Oh my.
Still never forgot that scene. I mean, oh gosh. So he was trying to get rid of the evidence. And he had so much that, you know, you probably, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. There have been times when people try to eat it and swallow it, you know, and then they get high. But this one was, this is my all-time funny situation that was also serious at the same And so it was very interesting. So anyway, it was an exigent circumstance situation. We didn't have to get a warrant before we went in there. Okay, and so finally, we already covered this, stop and frisk, Terry versus Ohio, that you can be stopped for a brief period and asked certain facts like name, address, blah, 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 and then determine whether it's a crime or crime is afoot. Crime is afoot. Have anybody ever heard that term, that crime is afoot? Have you ever heard that term? Well, it came from the, I'm going to show you something. Okay, it came from the Fourth Amendment case of Terry, I think it was Terry, in the Supreme Court decision, the justice, yeah, it means that crime is in the process of taking place. And so that's what that pretty much means. And so it's a statement that you will find in the case itself that talks about how you can determine one of the standards dealing with reasonable suspicion. Crime is afoot. In other words, crime is taking place in the vicinity. All right, so I'm going to skip over this, and I'm really done. And so I'm going to ask you guys as I go back into the classroom, stop sharing. Any questions about anything that I covered tonight? Okay. So I got to give you a key phrase. Any guesses about what I have in mind already? Type in the chat box if you want to take a guess.
Probable
Or
cause.
so. Who said that? Cynthia?
Cindy.
You know what? Did you get this? Did you get the other one before?
No.
Somebody got it right away. Anyway, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's a, that's exactly what it is. Very good. Very good. Let me tell you guys a little secret. If you pay close attention to my lectures each week, my key phrase generally relates to topics that are pretty prevalent in the lecture. And probable cause and reasonable suspicion, but probable cause is the most, because the fact that it has to do with direct application of the Fourth Amendment. Reasonable suspicion deals with a lower standard within the probable cause or under it. So the answer is probable cause. Give me that and you get your points. Very good. And that means to me that that's why I try to do the guesses at the end, is to see how much into the lecture that you really are, because I try to give you additional stuff that's in the module itself that you wouldn't get otherwise from listening to the lecture or coming to the lecture. So, excuse me. Again, good night, guys. I will be working this evening to finish up your week 2 stuff, and then start on your week 3 stuff to get that done. Um, so so thank you guys. I appreciate it, and keep me in your prayers as I deal with the situation, as I shared earlier to those of you who were here about my wife's illness. But it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So I'll see you guys next Monday night, November 2nd at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time with our week 5 lecture. Okay. Okay. So, all right.
Good
So,
night.
good night, guys, and thank you again for coming out. And I've been wondering where the guys. I'm not opposed to it. I have 8 sisters and no brothers, so I'm kind of accustomed to it. So, good night, guys. See you next week.
Good night.
Uh,